Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyadi Paschatya Dashatarini Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Muladhara, Radha Muladhara, Radha Muladhara, Shri Radhe, Radha Muladhara, Jaya Radha Muladhara, Radha Muladhara, Radha Muladhara, Shri Radhe, Jaya Gaura Chanda, Gaura Chanda, Gaura Chanda, Jaya Gaura Chanda, Jaya Gaura Chanda, Gaura Chanda, Gaura Chanda, Jaya Gaura Chanda, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo.
Rajasaki Devi ki, Shri Radha Muralidhar ki, Shri Gaur Chandra ki, Bhakti Center ki, Jai. Welcome everybody. Wednesday night, you made it. Thank you for coming. Haribo. Who feels like they came from the furthest? Prabhu, where did you come from? New Jersey. Anybody beat that? Princeton. Uh-oh, we got a hand in the back. Karen? Where? New Hampshire. Uh-oh, hands are up, yeah. Tawako, okay, Tawako, yeah. North Carolina, yes. Yeah, okay, she went, no, uh-oh, one more hand. Where? San Jose. Coast to coast. Okay, one more hand went up. New Mexico? New Mexico or Mexico? Mexico. Hey, international flavor. Thank you. Uh-oh, way in the back. Very back. What do we got? Peru. Haribo. Nobody say Argentina, but go ahead. Yeah. Okay. Where we got? Where? And I don't even know where that is. Where an island? Okay. Okay. Uh-oh, last one. Chandra, where you got? Asia. Malaysia. Okay. I thought you were going broad. Thank you. This is the house that Srila Prabhupada built. Everybody's welcome. It's amazing to get together on a Wednesday night when you had all opportunity in New York City to do something else. Amidst all of the troubles, the smoke in the air, the rain. How many of you said, I don't know if I'm coming tonight when you saw that rainstorm come through? Thank you for pushing through. We're very grateful. This is the start of our 2 Wednesday talks with His Holiness Radhanath Swami. Big round of applause, please. So His Holiness Radhanath Swami needs no introduction, especially here at the Bhakti Center, but if you have not heard him speak, he's a globally renowned spiritual teacher, an author, a best-selling author. He goes everywhere, all over the world, and he's spreading this amazing message of Krishna consciousness wherever he goes. We've just been celebrating it was 8 days, celebrating the 60th anniversary of ISKCON, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And we did a drama right here on Saturday. And I had a role in this drama where I had to read the purposes of ISKCON, because it was inaugurated July 11th, 1966. And one of them really struck me, and I wanted to reread this to you because this is the purpose of what we're doing here today. The very first purpose of ISKCON is to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge. This was written by Srila Prabhupada in 1966. To systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and to educate all people from Malaysia, from Cape somewhere, from Peru, from New Jersey, from New Hampshire, all people, and educate them in the techniques of spiritual life in order to do what? In order to check the imbalance of values in life and to achieve real unity and peace in the world. That's a worthy endeavor, isn't it? So the basis of the Bhakti Center is this spiritual knowledge that's received. And how do we receive it? We receive it by doing exactly what we're doing here. Shravanam Kirtanam means hearing and then chanting. And there's nobody better to do it and to share with us than His Holiness Radhanath Swami. So we are very, very grateful to have him here to share that wisdom. He's going to be speaking. We gave him a topic. We've decorated the temple. And here's for that topic. And this is what you do when you welcome a sadhu or a real saintly person. You say, and speak whatever you like. So we're going to ask Maharaj to speak whatever he wants, whatever comes from his heart, and let our ears be very, very attentive to hearing whatever he has to say. So His Holiness Radhanath Swami, we beg you to please come. We will be attentive to hear whatever you have to say. Warm welcome. You have to be as eager as you would be if you were watching a free kick at the end of the match, okay? More eager than that. Come on, honey.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yasodhanandana Prajachana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Prajachana Ranjana Jamuna Thira Banachari Jamuna Thira Banachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yasodhanandana Prajachana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Prajachana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Prajachana Ranjana Jamuna Thira Banachari Jamuna Thira Banachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatyate Satharine. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hari Hari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Haribo. Radha Murlidhara Radhe. Om Agyantimidandasya Gyananjanachalakaya Chakshurum Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Judhapadakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahakana Raghunathan Bidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Bidamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Gaurangi Radhe Brindabaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Binda Hare Krishna 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 I am very... Can anyone hear? I am sincerely grateful for this opportunity to be with all of you this evening. Thank you to our very special guests and to all of the assembled devotees. Today, first I was told to speak on a subject, and then at the last minute proposed anything I like. Which means it's a polite way of sticking to the subject. But today is a very special holy day, a day of celebration that takes place historically for thousands of years in one of the holiest parts of India, Jagannath Puri. And today, there's well over 1 million people on one street to celebrate this event. And when Srila Prabhupada, our guru, was a little boy, just 5, 6 years old, he was living in Calcutta, and he was so attracted to this festival that he would plead with his parents. In fact, he would demand his parents to get him to make him a little chariot so that he could celebrate the festival in the courtyard of the Radha Govinda temple. And he would do that every year with his friends. And later on, he brought this festival to almost every major city in the entire world, where oftentimes thousands and thousands of people are singing and dancing and having a very cultural experience, feasting. So today is the day that we commemorate this very historic event. So it would take many hours to try to describe it properly, but I'll give some indications. From a historical perspective, as it is described in our scripture, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita was written about 500 years ago on the life and the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, who 5,000 years before was predicted, prophesied, and explained in the great Vedic literatures. An incarnation of God, or Krishna, who would come in most troubled times to teach unmotivated, uninterrupted love for the Supreme Lord. And in this wonderful, the way Lord Chaitanya celebrated this festival with his devotees, in the content of a wonderful celebration, he actually taught us both the simplest and the deepest, most intimate, esoteric truths of how to progress in spiritual life. I'll try not to go too much into the intimate, esoteric parts. But we'll begin where Lord Chaitanya, he began this Sankirtan movement, spreading love of God through the chanting of God's names in Srinavadvipdham. And to reach more people, he became a sannyasi. Sannyas is the highest order of renunciation, celibacy. It is a life-avowed monk. And he moved to Jagannath Puri. After going to Puri, he spent 2 years on foot, traveling all the way down the eastern coast of India and all the way up the western coast, teaching this beautiful message. The heart of the message is Jivara Swarupoi Krishna Nityadas. That we are not these bodies, we are not these minds that are always changing. We are living within the body and the mind. We are the soul, in Sanskrit, the jiva. or Atma. And the body, the mind, all of our relations, all of our connections with the things of this material world, when they're seen in truth, we understand that they are all God's property, not to be used whimsically, but to use responsibly in harmony with God's will. Brahmabhuta prasanatmana sochati na kankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labhate param. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells what are the qualities of a person who is actually on the spiritual platform. And the purpose of all religions, the purpose of yoga, the purpose of all spiritual paths is to bring us to that pure spiritual platform. Brahmabhuta prasanatma. Such a person is always joyful. Now, how can you be joyful when there's so much suffering around? Both to Adhyatmaka, Adhyadaivaka, Adhibodhaka. The nature of this world, there's sufferings of our own body and mind, sufferings caused by other living beings. They may be humans, insects, or suffering caused by nature. Too much heat, too much cold, too much rain, too little rain. At any moment, padam padam yadvi padam natesham, things could change. So how in this world can one be prasanatma, joyful, always? Nasochati nakangshati. That means such a person, why are they joyful? Because they neither hanker or crave for things they don't have, nor do they lament for that which is lost. Nor are they envious of people who have more, or arrogant toward people who have less. Samasarveshu bhuteshu. That means an actually enlightened person is not just one who calls themselves a Hindu or a Hare Krishna or a Christian or a Muslim or a Jain or a Jew or a Parsi or a Buddhist or whatever it may be, but a person who actually sees every living being with equal vision. This is a universal principle. In Bible, Lord Jesus taught us the first and great commandment is to love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And what is the characteristic of a person who actually loves God with all heart, mind, and soul? Is you love your neighbor as yourself. And the Bhagavad Gita, in great, beautiful detail, describes everyone as our neighbor. Vidyavanaya sampane brahmani kavihastini suni chaiva subhakicha pandita samadarshana. The true learning, true wisdom, is to see all beings with equal vision. Whatever their race, their gender, their nationality, their social status, their religion. Bhagavad Gita goes even regardless of their species. Life is sacred. Wherever there's life, there's the presence of the soul. And what is the nature of the soul? The nature of the soul is we are eternally subordinate to, part and parcel of, the Supreme Soul, or God. The nature of the soul is not just to serve God, but to love God. Because in a deep revelation, service means to please. And there's nothing God needs of us. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. The supreme absolute truth is the proprietor of everything that exists. Krishna tells in the Bhagavad Gita, I am the intelligence of the intelligence, the ability of all living beings, the strength of the strong. That all the great splendorous things throughout the entire creation, someone may be wealthy, someone may be beautiful, someone may be strong or powerful, someone may be famous, someone may be very learned, brilliant, genius, someone may be very renounced, detached, humble. Whatever's attractive, it's all but a spark of God's splendor. Just like the planet of the sun is emanating limitless light and limitless heat. It's quite amazing. I think the sun is 94 million miles away. And yet, we're just... And according to my little scientific research, from the light and heat of the sun to actually be transferred from the actual surface of the sun planet to the Earth takes about 8 minutes. It's like 180,000 miles a second. You know, we're proud about making computers, and maybe we could make a spaceship to the moon or some other planet. And I mean, that's amazing for us. But as far as God's creation, it's insignificant. But someone who is God conscious actually sees the power of God coming through whatever is in this world. Krishna said, it's all a spark of all the great things in the entire universe is not even a single spark of God's splendor. And therefore, in the Sanskrit books, a prominent name of God is Krishna. Krishna means all attractive, all beautiful, all knowing, all powerful. But what gives happiness to people in this world is not just beauty and power. It's love. You can give a child so many things, but if a child is not loved, a child is empty. That's the nature of the heart. It's the nature of life itself, especially in the human existence. But I spend a lot of times with animals, cows and sheep and goats and buffaloes, and so many things, so many people. And when you get to know them, really, that's at the heart of happiness. You know, people enjoy eating and sleeping and mating and defending. But really, people are looking for the joy of love and being loved. So Krishna, the all-attractive, means the supreme absolute truth is all-attractive because God is the supreme lover and the supreme object of love. And the nature of the soul is to love. Prema. But in this material experience, due to the ahankar, or the false ego, that innermost propensity, that innermost need, our innermost nature is forgotten, it's covered. And instead of identifying ourselves as eternal objects of God's love and eternal lovers of God, we're identifying ourselves as being old or young, or white or black, or red or yellow, or brown, or male or female, or human, or elephants, or cows, rich or poor. Janasya mohoya mohamameti. When we think, I am this body, and this subtle body, the mind, then we think that that which is connected to me is mine. But the real ego is I'm an eternal loving associate of the supreme absolute truth, the all-attractive Lord, Sri Krishna. And what is mine? God's love. And when we understand our own spiritual nature, the testimony that knowledge is within us is we will see that same spiritual nature wherever there's life. Everyone is a part of God. Everyone is a child of God. This body, it's going to grow old, it's going to get diseased, and it will inevitably die. But it's God's property entrusted in our care. So we should take the best care of what we can for its divine purpose. And when we see that potential in each other, and we try to awaken that potential in my own life and in other lives, that's Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. And in this Bhagavad Gita verse, when we follow all of these things, then Krishna says, then you come to the platform of practicing bhakti. Now this is called the Bhakti Center. And, you know, most of us, we consider ourselves bhakti yogis. We're practicing bhakti. Bhakti yoga. Yoga means to link, to connect. It's the path by serving with love, we awaken eternal loving service. By chanting God's names to purify our hearts, the goal is not to be God or to be nothing. The goal is to chant forever with pure, intimate, ecstatic love, feeling the presence of the all-attractive, all-beautiful love of God in every situation forever. And this body, like a vehicle, is an opportunity to help us with that and this mind. So Lord Chaitanya came to teach this sublime culture and science. The name of his philosophy, according to he and his followers, is Achintya Beda Beda Tattva, which means Achintya is inconceivable. Inconceivably understanding unity in diversity, and actually appreciating diversity in unity. There's so much conflict in this world. The conflict in the world is an extension of the conflict in people's minds and hearts. Because we're not, the body, the mind is not united with the soul or God, therefore it cannot really be united with each other in a deep way. Relationships become very conditional according to circumstances. But love is not conditioned by circumstances. The sun is not shining for the sun itself. It's shining right now. Even when there's a thunderstorm in the middle of the night, we may not see it, but the sun is always shining. So the light of the soul is always shining. The light of God's love in the soul is always shining. But it's covered. And to uncover that is the highest purpose that we can strive for as human beings. And to harmonize that truth in whatever we do. Then we can actually, not just theoretically, hypothetically, or philosophically, but in reality, we could be instruments of peace. So this idea of unity and diversity, when we see the origin, Janmadya Shayataha, the origin of everything and everyone in God's love, in Krishna's all-attractive, supreme, spiritual nature. The material world, the spiritual world, the eternal souls within this world, when we see it in relation with the Supreme, with Krishna, then we're actually seeing truth. And we realize how whoever we may be, death is going to come upon us. But with whatever time we have in this life, we all have the most incredibly precious opportunity to connect to the real prasanatma, the real joy of the soul. So this festival in Jagannath Puri, how did Lord Chaitanya celebrate it? The story begins, and I guess I'm beginning my lecture now. I just hope I could end it on time. There was a king. Now, most people would really like to be a king or a queen. His name was Prataparudra. And he was truly a majestic king. He was, in those days, this is 5 centuries back, he was the king of Odisha, a province, and huge province in eastern India. And you don't have to campaign for an election every 4 years. When you're king, you are king for your whole life until you pass it to your child at your own will. And he was such a popular king. Everyone loved him. And he was very powerful. He had armies. And even though in India there was the Mughal rule, and Mughals had come, the conquerors and warriors had come from the West, and they had conquered most all of India, but they could not conquer certain places like Jaipur, where there were great kings, and also Odisha. Tremendous wealth. He had a guru. His guru was Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Kashi Mishra. And one day, King Prataparudra asked his guru, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who is this Sri Chaitanya I'm hearing about? I'm hearing so many incredible things. People really love him. And he seems to be just an ocean of such compassion and love and wisdom. Please tell me who he is. I heard that you met him. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, I met him. And I was considered one of the greatest of all the scholars in India, and I tried to teach him because I considered him he was only 24 years old. I thought, this young boy has become such a celibate monk, a sannyasi. I have to help him so he doesn't get trapped by illusion. And he patiently listened to me for 7 days. And I asked him, why don't you ask any questions? He said, well, what you're trying to describe, the Vedanta, it's as easy to understand as the sun. But your explanations are like dark clouds covering it. Now he's a 24-year-old Swami, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is a very elderly, famous pundit in the true sense. He said, well, if you don't agree with what I say, what is your opinion? And because Lord Chaitanya humbly listened to him for 7 days, culturally, he had to reciprocate by listening. And he was completely transformed. Transformed from thinking that the absolute truth is just an all-pervading impersonal energy to understanding the absolute truth as the all-loving supreme person, God, Krishna, Rama, many names. And Sarvabhauma told King Prataparudra, from the teachings of the ancient scriptures, it is a fact. And from what he directly and personally revealed to me, he is Krishna. He is God. He's an incarnation. And this great king, Prataparudra, immediately accepted it because he had such a clean and pure and well-wishing heart. Just by hearing it, he completely accepted it. He said, is it possible that you could arrange an interview for me to meet Sri Chaitanya? And Maharaj, or Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he said, very difficult. He's a Swami, and he's very traditional, and he's very strict, and he doesn't meet materialistic people like kings. And besides that, he's already left for South India. The king was waiting. And when he heard Lord Chaitanya returned, he wrote a message to Sarvabhauma and said, could you arrange an interview? And Sarvabhauma said, I don't think it's possible. He won't meet you. He's setting an example for others. Because so often we compromise our spiritual principles by, instead of seeing people as children of God that we could exchange God's love with, we try to get worldly benefits from people. And of course, living in this world, most people have to do that. It's part of life. But people who renounce, Swamis are not supposed to do that. And at that time, it was very traditional. He will never meet you. The king wrote another letter. He said, Sarvabhauma, please give my plea to those devotees who love the Lord. Because we can't approach the Lord directly, but we can approach through those who love him. So Sarvabhauma brought this letter to Nityananda Prabhu and several others. Swarup Damodar Goswami, Haridas Thakur, they were all assembled. And this letter, the king is begging, what is the use of my palace and my huge treasuries and all of my power if it's not pleasing to the Lord? If the Lord does not want to see me because I'm a king, then I will give it all away. And I will become a beggar. And I'll go door to door for the rest of my life, if that's what it takes to get the favor of the Lord. Now, if you're willing to do that, that means you're not asking for material favors. You already have everything. You're willing to give everything up. It means you want to be an object of the love, the mercy, the kindness. Because nothing material can solve the problems of suffering for any sustainable amount of time. When the devotees saw this and they could feel the sincerity of it, Nityananda Prabhu and others, they said, what are we going to do? They went to Lord Chaitanya and said, let's just go to him and we won't ask him. We'll just talk about his wonderful devotional qualities and his surrendered heart. And if we just explain what his character is, then maybe the Lord on his own will decide to meet him. So they all went before Lord Chaitanya. But they couldn't speak a word. They were afraid. Lord Chaitanya said, I can see that you came to say something while you aren't saying anything. They said, because we're afraid to say it. Please, this king is going to become a beggar. He's going to give up his whole position, his whole wealth, everything, and become a beggar unless he's allowed to meet you. Lord Chaitanya, he had already previously said he would not, in very graphic terms. But now he said, you could all decide whatever you want. But he said, but they didn't want to displease him. They said, just temporarily, to keep him, as a king, just give a piece of your cloth to him. And he'll see hope in that. So Lord Chaitanya said, whatever you want. So they got a piece of cloth. And when the king got that piece of cloth, he was so happy. He was so grateful. Now, usually people are trying to make appointments to see kings. But he was so grateful that I got a piece of cloth from the Lord. And he was crying, and he put it on his altar, and he worshiped that little piece of cloth as the mercy of God. And I warned you that it's a long story. So I'm going to really skip ahead. So many other things started happening. At one time, Ramananda Rai, he came to Puri, and he was a governor of an entire province. And Lord Chaitanya asked him, give up your government service and come to Puri and let us be together. So he asked the king, could I give up my governorship under your empire to live with the Lord? And the king was so happy. Ramananda Rai said, when I said this, that you asked me, he said, oh, Sri Chaitanya, you are so fortunate. He won't even look at me. He won't meet me, but he wants you to live with him. He said, not only do you have my full blessings that you could retire for the rest of your life, but I'll give you your full salary. Ramananda Rai said, when I said your name, the king started crying in ecstatic love. Ramananda Rai said, I wish I had such love. And Lord Chaitanya said, no one has so much love like you. But still, he did not agree to meet him. So now the day of Rath Yatra is coming up today. And just 1 or 2 days before, Lord Chaitanya, he called for the superintendent of Jagannath's temple, the beautiful, ancient, magnificent temple of Puri. And he called for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Kashi Mishra. He said, the Rath Yatra, Lord Chaitanya is taken out of his temple and brought on a chariot, on a procession, the deity of the temple, to Gundicha, where he will stay for 1 week. I personally want to clean the Gundicha temple with all of my associates. And the superintendent of the Jagannath temple, they have so many people to clean. Said, you're the greatest of scholars, you're the greatest of monks, renunciates, you're the supreme Lord. You shouldn't have to clean. But if that is your wish, Lord Chaitanya said, it is my wish. Make all arrangements. So the next day, they brought over 100 brooms and over 100 pots for water to wash. And Lord Chaitanya met all of his devotees, several hundred of his devotees, early in the morning, and they went to Gundicha. And Lord Chaitanya, with his own hands, gave everyone a broom. Now, these are saints, these are scholars, these are avatars. Advaita, Gadadhar, Srivas. He's giving them brooms. And he said, now let us all together go into the Gundicha temple and let us collect every single speck of dust, every piece of straw, and every grain of sand. And before explaining what actually happened there, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, our Guru's Guru, he describes in a beautiful commentary what this cleansing of Gundicha temple represents. The heart is a temple. Krishna describes in Gita, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hrideshir Janatishtati, that the Supreme Lord, along with the soul, the presence of the Lord is within the heart of every living being. God's presence is within our hearts. The Upanishads give an explanation, just like two birds in the same tree. One bird is trying to be happy. Sometimes it eats sweet fruits and it's really happy, and sometimes it eats a bitter fruit and it's miserable. But there's another bird that is transcendental and beyond the tree, is simply waiting. Stop looking in your happiness for this happiness and distress of this ever-changing world. Turn to me. And that is the Supreme Lord, that is Paramatma, Krishna, who is seated within all of our hearts. In this parade, we're going to bring Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, the forms of the Lord, to Gundicha temple. How could we bring them here unless that temple is completely pure, totally cleansed? So the cleansing of Gundicha temple represents the cleansing of our hearts. And what is to be cleansed? Anyabhilashita sunyam. Rupa Goswami describes what is pure devotion. Pure devotion is when the heart is cleansed of all false ego, all upadis or illusory misconceptions. I am this body, and those things in relation to the body are mine. Cleansed of selfish lust, desire. Cleansed of arrogance, selfish anger, greed, envy, and illusion. Cleansed of the desire to approach God just for some material happiness, which is temporary and disconnected from the soul. Cleansed of the desire for supernatural powers. Some yogis, through meditation, they could perform what we, as ordinary human beings, will describe as miracles. In other words, to do things that are just most of us can't do. My father was born in 1923. He just passed away 3 years ago. But when he was a child, if he was sitting in a bus, and the person next to him, their cell phone went off. And that person took it out, and he's doing FaceTime with somebody in Australia. My father's from Chicago. He would probably think this is a miracle. But now, everybody in the bus is talking to somebody like that. It's ordinary. But actually, 100 years ago, it was inconceivable. So there's gross technology where we can develop through science different ways of we can say, manipulating or adjusting energy on subtler and subtler levels. One time we were fighting with fists and sticks, and then we start, splitting atoms, and we're fighting with threats of nuclear wars. So it's tapping into subtle energies. But since time immemorial, great yogis, great mystics, through meditation, through various yoga practices, people could tap into these subtle energies and perform what we consider miracles. Transform their own bodies, travel inconceivable ways, produce things, read minds, see future. But it's all material. The only thing that's truly spiritual is to tune in to the energy of God's love and to be an instrument of that love. Because you can have all these mystical potencies and you could perform supernatural feats, but you could be really arrogant about it too. You could even be envious and cruel. And in my own life, I've seen these things. And really, once you see them a few times, it just doesn't impress you. The only thing that really impresses is a person who's really humble and simple and pure in heart. That's impressive. So the straw of all the dust of all sorts of temporary material aspirations, the sand of the desire for all these supernatural powers, and even the desire for liberation, the desire for salvation from all suffering is considered to be a pollutant of the heart. And when we are free of all of these things, desire for our own liberation, freedom of suffering, desire to enjoy, desire to control, the tendencies to be finding faults with others to prove ourselves better, all this is considered like the dust. And if we want to actually invite God to meet us in our hearts, we have to make our heart a completely clean place. Because unless our heart is clean in this way, we cannot really experience the presence of God in our hearts. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught a essential universal principle that it's actually impossible for us to really clean our hearts like this. It's only possible by God's grace. But in order to attract that grace, we must be sincere. The Lord reciprocates with our surrender, with really our efforts. So with this in mind, to clean the temple for the pleasure of welcoming the Lord, Lord Chaitanya personally, with his own hands, he gave everyone a broom. And he himself had a broom. And they were all sweeping, and they were sweeping, and then they were sweeping. And Lord Chaitanya said, everybody make pile. You all put all your dust and all your sand and all your straw in a pile. And they were all, Lord Chaitanya describes it. He was so enthusiastic. He was cleaning. It appeared as if he had 100 arms. He only had 2 arms. But that's how enthusiastic. That's how determined. Because he was setting an example. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, who comes with the mood, with the rasa, with the love of Sri Radha. And he comes in the role of a devotee to teach us how to be a devotee. By example. Not just by words, but by a living, personal example. So he was cleaning and cleaning and cleaning, and everyone was cleaning and cleaning. And Lord Chaitanya said, now let us pick up our piles and bring them outside the temple. And there were several hundred devotees who made one pile. And Lord Chaitanya made another pile. And his pile was far, far bigger, greater, and higher than everyone else put together. That was his example of determination. And he was praising those. He was praising everybody. The more you take it seriously, the more you can inspire others to take it seriously. And by inspiring others to take it seriously, by your example, you're actually their servant. And that is the way to attract the Lord's grace, to actually cleanse through us. And the process of cleansing our hearts, of course, it's to live a life of true moral, compassionate principles, but especially by hearing about the Lord. When we live with morality, we're not putting more dirt in it, but we have a lot of dirt in it already. When we hear the glories of the Lord, when we chant the glories and the teachings and the names of the Lord, when we worship the Lord, when we pray to the Lord, when we're serving of the servants of the Lord, these processes of bhakti are the ways of cleansing the heart. Cheto dharaparamarjanam bhava mahadavagni. Lord Chaitanya wrote that the mind, the heart, is like a mirror. And when you look in the mirror, you are supposed to see yourself. But if the mirror has collected years or even lifetimes of dust and dirt and sand and pollution, then when you look in the mirror, what do you see? You just see all that dust, and you think, this is me. And with that misconception, everything in life becomes misdirected. So this chanting of God's names, Harinam Sankirtan, it is declared to be the prime benediction for all humanity because it cleanses the mirror of the heart and awakens the real happiness that we're all seeking. When we understand, when we realize, when we perceive, when the soul is not looking into a polluted reflection of itself, when we see the soul as it is, we see God's love shining upon us. And we simply want to reciprocate in every way with loving service to the Lord. So these principles represent the cleansing of Gundicha temple. And after they cleaned for hours and hours and hours, Lord Chaitanya got everyone together. And he said, now we will sweep again, searching for finer particles of straw and dust and sand. And he went right into it. They were going to the ceilings. They were going to the floors. They were going to all the buildings connected to the temples and the kitchens and the residential areas. And they were going to even the courtyards between the buildings because they're all part of the Lord's temple. We can't bring Jagannath here until it's clean. And this time, they didn't think anything else was left. But the second round of cleaning, they collected even more than the first time. And when everything was just like completely sparkling in this way, meanwhile, there's hundreds of big pots of water that everybody's just standing waiting, filled up. And then Lord Chaitanya said yes. And they all brought the water to him. And then there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, maybe thousands. There's a lake called Indrajumana Sarovar. It's still there today in Puri. And they were going to the lake, and some people were filling the water into these clay pots, big clay pots. And then they'd pass it to somebody else, and they'd pass it to somebody else, and pass it to somebody else, and it's almost a kilometer away, maybe half a kilometer away, and it gets to the temple, and then there's just, hundreds of pots at the temple at a time, and they're throwing it on the ceiling, and they're pouring it on the walls, and they're pouring it on the altars, and they're pouring it in the courtyards. They're just cleaning and cleaning and cleaning, and sometimes the pots were hitting each other and breaking, and they just laugh and go and run to get more, and nobody said a single word except Krishna, Krishna. Whatever was meant to be communicated could be fully communicated by saying Krishna, Krishna. That's unity and diversity. That's real. They were just so tuned into pleasing Krishna that their hearts, even though they were all individuals, their hearts were one in their devotion. And what were they one in? They were one in pleasing Krishna and serving Krishna. So just by saying Krishna, Krishna, if somebody, needed more water, if somebody wanted somebody to move something somewhere, they would just go Krishna, Krishna, yes, yes. No, not yes, yes. Somebody would say Krishna, Krishna, and they go Krishna, Krishna. They became, and so many of these people they never met each other before. There were poor people, there were rich people. There were people from different castes and different societies, but they were all one in their desire to serve the Lord. It was really a beautiful community, wonderful festival. And as we clean the temple, when we clean the temple of the Lord in this spirit, that is the process of cleaning our hearts. Lord Chaitanya was so engrossed in cleaning. He was using his own cloth to shine things. And sometimes people were bringing him buckets and buckets and buckets of water, but he was in such love, serving the Lord in this most menial, humble way. The tears were pouring out of his eyes, and he didn't need water. He was cleaning the whole temple around him just with his tears. And then when everything, they let out all the water and all went outside, and then bring more water. And they cleaned it over and over and over again. And after all the water was done, they were all using their cloths and shining everything until the entire Gundicha temple complex was absolutely pure and clean. And then what did Lord Chaitanya say? There's another temple next to us. The Nrsimha temple. So they went and did the same thing there. And they were completely happy. This was a Leela. This is a pastime. We're still talking about it 5 centuries later. And at least some of us are happy hearing it. And just by hearing this story, our heart is getting cleansed. So they cleaned the whole Nrsimha temple. And then Lord Chaitanya just had everybody doing kirtan. He started to dance, and they were chanting the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. And Lord Chaitanya, being an example, he was absorbed in the singing and absorbed in dancing, which is the way of actually cleansing the temple of the heart. And especially, Lord Chaitanya just didn't teach do it yourself. Lord Chaitanya taught we should clean the heart as a community. He engaged everyone. And he danced and everyone was singing. And then Lord Chaitanya looked at Advaitacharya's son. His name was Sri Gopal. He said, Sri Gopal, chant and dance. And Advaitacharya is a great avatar. He was the most elderly incarnation of Mahavishnu, Sadashiva, greatest leader of all the Vaishnavas. And his son, one of his sons, Gopal, he began to chant. And after a few seconds, he fell to the ground lifeless. And Advaitacharya's father came running, and all the others came running. They were so concerned. There was no breath, no sign of life. It appeared he was dead. Advaitacharya started praying and loudly chanting God's names, and soon all the devotees were in a circle around this lifeless body of Sri Gopal, and they were all loudly chanting. They were chanting Krishna's name. They were chanting Nrsimhadev's names, but nothing worked. No breath. They all began to cry. Now we may ask this question, if they're liberated souls and we're not the body, why are they crying? These are saints. Because the body is a sacred medium in which we could communicate with each other for this higher purpose. And when that medium is gone, we understand the soul is not dead. Neither our soul or any other soul will ever die. Nahanyate hanyamane sarire. But the residential facility of this body as a father, as a son, as a friend, as a lover, as a god brother, sister, it's sacred. It's a means by which we are communicating between souls. So they were crying. They didn't know what else to do. And then Lord Chaitanya just walked up to the boy's body and placed his fingers on Gopal's heart and said, "Gopal, stand up." And Gopal's eyes opened. He started breathing, and he stood up and began to dance. And everyone was happy. And the kirtan went very, very special. And the next morning, there was the Netrotsava, where Lord Chaitanya early morning went for the first darshan of Jagannath in 15 days. During the Anabasar, he's in seclusion for 15 days, not apparent, not giving his presence in the temple. So they were very, very eager. And that's a beautiful story. Describes when Lord Chaitanya was looking at Lord Jagannath. His eyes were like two thirsty honeybees drinking the sweetest nectar from the lotus-like eyes of Lord Jagannath. And the next day was the parade. So these the forms of Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra on the altar. Have any of you ever been to Puri? Have any of you have seen Jagannath? He's really big. It takes so many people to carry. And it's a whole procession that takes hours just to bring him to the chariot and put him on the chariot and then pulling the chariot to Gundicha. But while they're bringing him, there's a beautiful description in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And right in front of them all, Lord Chaitanya saw King Prataparudra. You all remember him? He was sweeping the street. He's the king. He's like a multi-billionaire. He has armies. You know, anybody he tells to do anything, they'll do it. But yet before God, and before God's devotees, before everyone. And you see, the Supreme Lord is in our hearts. He may incarnate and be outside of us, but he's seeing everything from within our hearts. And Krishna, God doesn't just see what we do. He sees our intent. You can fool some of the people some of the time. You cannot fool all the people all of the time. But you could never fool the Supreme Lord. He knows past, present, future. He knows our hearts perfectly. If there was, there's some political leaders who might go out and start sweeping to get votes. Or to really look like I'm one of you, put on a hat, the factory workers, I'm one of you. But, is he really giving his heart to the factory? King Prataparuja, Lord Chaitanya is seeing within his heart what the motivation of what he's doing. He's sweeping the street. The most menial type of activity, because in his heart, he was deeply and always feeling he was the menial servant of the Lord. And his being king was a way of being a menial servant to the people. They're all Krishna's people. Even justice, in a God-conscious way, justice is done as with compassion, as well-wishing spirit to serve the people. So when Lord Chaitanya saw King Prataparudra very attentively serving everyone and serving the Lord in the simplest, most menial way of sweeping, Lord Chaitanya then decided, I will bestow full benedictions, blessings, and mercy to fulfill all of his desires. Didn't do it yet, but he made that decision. And then when Lord Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra were on their chariots and everyone was pulling, there was kirtans and there was bells ringing, and there's so many beautiful descriptions. Lord Chaitanya divided his followers into 4 groups for kirtan. Each group would have 2 mridanga drums and so many singers. There was 1 lead singer and 1 lead dancer for each group. And then there were so many others. And then the whole population would join in. And if I'm remembering right, the first group, Swarup Damodar Goswami, was the lead singer. And the lead dancer was Advaitacharya. What type of kirtan was that? And it describes the names of all the others who were participating. And the second group, Srivas Thakur, was the lead singer. And the dancer was Nityananda Prabhu. The third group, Mukunda Dutt, was the lead singer. And the lead dancer was Srila Haridas Thakur. And the next group, Govinda Ghosh was the lead singer, and Vakreshwar Pandit was lead dancer. And then the people of Kulinagram came, and they formed another group where Ramananda and Satyaraj were the dancers. And then from the village of Srikhanda, the whole village came. And Narahari and Raghunandan were dancing. And then from Shantipur, Advaitacharya's own village, his son Achyutananda was the lead dancer. So there were 7 groups, and Lord Chaitanya was organizing everything. There were 4 groups in front of Jagannath's chariot, 1 group on either side and 1 behind. And they all began to sing together. And it was a procession to bring Krishna Gundicha, or to Vrindavan. Each group was growing and growing in size, and Lord Chaitanya, at times, he expanded himself to be dancing and singing in each of the 7 groups at the same time. But the people in each kirtan party were thinking, the Lord is so merciful. He's so kind to us. He just stays with us. He doesn't go anywhere else. They didn't recognize everyone was thinking like that. And actually, only the most intimate associates who were blessed with this vision by Lord Chaitanya, by God himself, could recognize what Lord Chaitanya was doing. He was not only in all 7 groups at the same time, but by his love, he could make each person in each group think, he just always looking at me. For the Supreme, there is no limitation. You know, if we want to show our love to somebody, we usually have to neglect somebody else. Because we're little souls. But the Lord can give full, absolute personal attention to all limitless living entities who open their hearts to receive his love. King Prataparuja was on the rooftop of his palace, along with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Kashi Mishra. He could see what Lord Chaitanya was doing. One of the only most intimate people who saw the truth. He was astonished. He was struck with wonder. What was he seeing? He was seeing 2 inconceivable truths that practically no one could understand. One was Lord Jagannath and Lord Chaitanya were the same one person, reciprocating with each other. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna in the mood of Radha. Radha is none different than Krishna. That supreme truth, they are reciprocating with each other, the one God. And he also saw how although Lord Jagannath was just gazing upon the beauty of Lord Chaitanya's dancing, and Lord Chaitanya was gazing upon the beauty of Jagannath, it was happening in all 7 parties simultaneously. And it describes in our scripture, why did Lord Chaitanya give this vision to the king? Because with such a humble heart, he served the Lord and everyone by sweeping the street. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita keeps coming back to this principle. Every time Lord Chaitanya would give mercy to King Prataparuja, which I'm going to go forward in describing, it's because he was sweeping the street, because the Lord was so, his power, his wealth, his money, nothing impressed the Lord. But his sincere and humble desire to serve conquered the Lord. The beauty of the Ratha Yatra, sometimes Lord Chaitanya, he would just become one form, and all the 7 groups just went in big circles around him. And then he'd go into 7, and they'd all go into different groups. He was in the mood of Sri Radha, and the esoteric understanding of this parade. When Krishna was only about 10.5 years old, he left Vrindavan to go to Mathura and to Dwarka. And when he was in Dwarka, he was living as a great prince. Magnificent castles, princesses, queens, and The residents of Vrindavan, where he grew up, why didn't they go to Dwarka? They were living in a simple cowherd community. When Krishna was young, he was a cowherd boy, a gopa, and Sri Radha was gopi. And they'd make garlands, and they'd dance, and they'd take care of cows, and goats, and sheep, and buffaloes. And the pastimes of Vrindavan were most intimate and simple. And in that simplicity, the deepest exchange of love, the grandeur of God, the greatness of God, the power of God, the majesty of God was overshadowed by the sweetness and the affection of God. They didn't see him as the all-powerful. They loved him as their best friend, as their child, as their lover. The intimacy of the love of Vrindavan is the same God. There's only one God, but God is unlimited and inconceivable. Yes, he's creator. Yes, he's destroyer. Yes, he's the ultimate judge. And beyond this world, in the spiritual Mahavishnu, just by his glance, he can impregnate the entire creation. And in the spiritual world, he's the supreme absolute truth. With pure devotees who have surrendered their lives forever, living with him in loving relationships. And he's the master. And they just want to serve with love. But in Vrindavan, when Krishna plays his flute, when he plays with his friends, he moves aside from his supreme majestic role of God to be our child, our friend, or our lover. That is Vrindavan. So for so many years, Krishna was living in the majestic royalty of Dwarka, being worshipped by great, great souls of the Yadu dynasty. And it was a long time, almost 100 years. Krishna, for the solar eclipse, he decided to bring many of his queens and ministers and other Yadu associates to the holy place of Kurukshetra. And he invited the residents of Vrindavan to come. It would be their first time meeting him again. Why didn't they go to Dwarka? Internally, they knew that Krishna's most happy in Vrindavan. So even if we have to endure separation from him, we know this is where he wants us to be. They were living each moment of the day just hoping that Krishna would come that day. The separation that they were feeling, Lord Chaitanya taught us, was the most intimate expression of feeling God's presence and God's love in their hearts. Love and separation. But part of love and separation is the great anticipation to meet again. And now they're going to meet Krishna. How excited they were. They got their little ox carts and went on a procession to Kurukshetra. And then they see Krishna. And he's not a little cowherd boy anymore. He's like a king. And they were so happy to see him, but so broken also. We don't want to see you in this place where there's crowds and crowds of warriors and great people. Thousands of elephants and horses and the rattling of chariots. We just want to bring you back to Vrindavan, where you're in the forest on the bank of the Yamuna. And the only sound is the birds and the peacocks. And here you're dressed with great armor and jewels and royalty. We just want to see you as a little cowherd boy with a peacock feather, carrying your flute. And Lord Chaitanya, in the mood of Radha, is praying to Jagannath. Please come back to Vrindavan. It is said that the mind and the heart are one. But my mind is always in Vrindavan. My heart is Vrindavan. Please come back to Vrindavan. That is where you are most happy. You are telling us that we should meditate on you. We're not yogis. We're gopis. We're cowherd girls. How can you treat us like yogis? We don't want to be yogis. We don't want to meditate on you. We want to dance with you. We want to serve you. We want to love you. We are drowning in a limitless ocean of separation, and we're being devoured by the Timingala fish, the most giant of all fish. We're being devoured by the Timingala fish of our ambition to serve you and to please you. Please come to Vrindavan. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita goes into the most beautiful detail of the bhava, the love, and the exchange between Lord Chaitanya and Lord Jagannath. And the procession of the Ratha Yatra is what was happening in the hearts and the minds of the gopis. They made these chariots in their hearts to bring Krishna, Balaram, and Subhadra back from the majesty of Dwarka to the intimacy, to the sweetness, and to the free exchanges of love in Vrindavan. And Gundicha temple represents Vrindavan. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all of his devotees, this was his mood of what Ratha Yatra actually represents. For Krishna's pleasure, bringing Krishna in the chariot of our hearts to the place where Krishna is most happy, where the love is sweetest. At one time they were chanting and dancing, and Lord Chaitanya, everyone was being bathed by his tears. He was in such, bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan was such a great meditation of his ecstasies as he was in kirtan. And it is described that anyone who saw him, all the servants of Jagannath in the temple, all the townspeople, all the residents of Puri, all the pilgrims, and everyone else, everyone was sprinkled with love of God just by appreciating the Lord's love for God. And at one time, Lord Chaitanya was dancing so beautifully, and everybody was so transcendentally in a state of a samadhi of love that nobody saw Lord Chaitanya fall to the ground. And King Prataparudra happened to be close by. And the king went to pick him up. And when he touched the Lord looked up and saw him and jumped away and said really loud, "How abominable, how pitiable it is that I've been touched by a materialistic person." And the king was quite mortified. But then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, "Actually, the Lord is very happy with you, and he's very..." He's just setting an example for others. And the kirtan went on. So many beautiful adventures on this kirtan. At one time, when they were getting really close to Gundicha, there's a place called Balaganda. At Balaganda, Jagannath, the chariots stop, and everyone, both the king, the ministers, the queens, the princes, the princesses, the scholars, the yogis, the farmers, the shopkeepers, the beggars, everyone has an opportunity to cook something and offer it to Lord Jagannath. It's really a special thing. Crowds and crowds of people, and everybody's so excited. This is their faith. There were thousands and thousands of preparations on the front and all sides, behind, all around the cart, and because there was no question of kirtan at that time, so Lord Chaitanya went into a very remote, secluded garden with all of his kirtan devotees to rest. And he laid on a raised platform, just feeling refreshed by the breeze. Because Puri is by the ocean, so the ocean breeze was upon him. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya told King Prataparudra, "Take off your royal clothes and put the clothes of just a simple Vaishnav beggar on." Not beggar, but very simple. So he put on those clothes, and the king and Sarvabhauma said, "Go in and massage the Lord's feet and legs." Now you really have to have faith. Because the Lord just rejected being touched by him a couple hours before. King Prataparudra was told to sing the beautiful prayers of love, of separation of the gopis from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and recite them while massaging the legs of the Lord. Should I continue? What else are they supposed to say? I'm giving you a choice when there's no choice. I'm sorry. King Prataparudra, after he got this instruction, with true humility, he went to every devotee and humbly begged for their blessings. Because he considered, from the core of his heart, he considered the blessings of any of these devotees, whoever they may have been, to of greater value than everything he had in his life. He was begging them all, please bless me. And everyone gave their heartfelt blessings, and he went into the garden. And Lord Chaitanya was laying on his back with his eyes closed, and he heard this voice singing Gopi Gita and someone massaging his legs. And hearing the beautiful song of the gopis' love, the love of Vrindavan, Lord Chaitanya opened his eyes and he said, go on reciting, go on reciting. The king continued. Jayati te dikam was the first part of the first verse. And as he was singing, Lord Chaitanya was becoming more and more and more absorbed. And then he came to that beautiful verse, Tavakatamritam tapta jivanam, which is describing the glories of the narrations, hearing and chanting the narrations of the Lord's form, his qualities, his pastimes, and his mercy. And how the power of hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord can cleanse the heart and awaken the deepest love. And anyone who is broadcasting such glories is Burida, the most munificent. Lord Chaitanya, when he heard this verse, he sat up and he cried out. This is Lord Chaitanya speaking to King Prataparudra. You are the most munificent. You are the most munificent. And then the Lord embraced him. Again and again, he kept embracing him and bathing the tears bathing the king with the tears of his gratitude and his compassion and love. Lord Chaitanya said, you are so kind. You are giving me so much nectar, but I have nothing to give you in return. All I have is my embrace. In other words, I'm giving myself. When Lord Ram met with Hanuman, after Hanuman jumped over the ocean and went against the entire empire of Ravana and conveyed the message to Sita and brought back her gift to Ram. And after he told him everything he had done, Lord Ram was then in exile, living in a cave in Kishkinda Kshetra, a cave called Prashravana. And when Ram heard what Hanuman had done, Lord Ram, he said, you have given me everything. I have nothing to give you in return except my embrace. I belong to you. And similarly with Krishna and gopis, for the gopis' love, Krishna said, even in an entire lifetime of Brahma, I could never repay you for your love and your service. I am your property forever. That same benediction that Hanuman received, the same benediction gopis received, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was giving to King Prataparudra. And a beautiful insight of this story is Lord Chaitanya never let on to anyone, including the king, that he recognized who he really was. He was just going along with the disguise and bestowing a mercy that was so rare and so perfect and so complete. The king was crying in ecstatic love, and Lord Chaitanya was crying in ecstatic love, and Lord Chaitanya kept embracing him, and they were both bathing each other with their tears. Lord Chaitanya basically gave him himself. And after some time, Lord Chaitanya never asked until now. He said, "You are giving me so much nectar. Who are you?" I'm going to leave you in suspense. You cannot lie to the absolute truth. King Prataparudra, if he said, "Actually, I'm King Prataparudra," I don't know what would have happened. He spoke the actual truth. Because being King Prataparudra, or being Jayagididhari, or being Kaustuba Prabhu, or being Radhanath Swami, these are all temporary designations that we're going through for a little period of time. He actually revealed his heart. When he was asked, "Who are you?" he said, "I am the most menial servant of the servant of your servants. And my only ambition, my only prayer, my only desire in life is to be the servant of your servants." And Srila Prabhupada, in this beautiful purport, he said, when Prahlad Maharaj was offered any benediction in the universe or beyond by Nrsingadev, he could have asked for wealth, heavenly enjoyments, he could have asked for mystical powers, he could have asked for liberation, he could have asked for elevation into the kingdom of God. But Prahlad asked, "Allow me to be the servant of your servants." And when Kuvera, the treasurer of the Devas, offered any benediction to Dhruva, he desired, "Let me be the servant of your servant. That's all I want." And when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered any benediction, heavenly enjoyment, liberation or elevation to the spiritual world, anything, to the most poverty-stricken banana seller, Kolavecha Sridhar, Srila Prabhupada describes the only thing he prayed for was to be the servant of the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada concludes this purport, therefore we could understand the ultimate goal, the highest benediction, and the deepest purpose of life is to be a servant of the Lord. Why? Madbhakta puja vyadika. Love means to please. And Krishna tells, if you really want to please me and show your love for me, please and show your love to those I love. In loving each other, we can give the greatest happiness to Krishna. If we're trying to fight over who's closest to Krishna, then our ego might think I'm very advanced. But Krishna doesn't think that way. I believe it's in the Bible also. Jesus said, as you treat each other is how you will treat me. This is at the heart of bhakti. Servant of the servant of the servant. Knowing that Krishna is in the hearts of the servants. And he's more satisfied when we serve those who love him than we serve directly. Now I'm going to conclude with a beautiful message. All the devotees were watching this. King Prataparuja, he bowed to the Lord, and then he left the garden. The Lord knew, but never let on that he knew who he really was. But when all the others who were assembled there saw King Prataparuja getting such intimate blessings, the Lord wasn't embracing them again and again and saying, I am yours forever, and crying on them. All the devotees were supremely happy to see Prataparuja getting this mercy. Why? Because that's the actual testimony of quality of a Vaishnava, or a true devotee, is to be free of envy. Usually among people, you're usually envious of people who are in more close circles, who have what you want. But as we love Krishna, as we love the Lord, our happiness is to see others feeling that happiness. Our joy is to see others making spiritual progress. Our joy is to see others progressing even more than me. Our joy is to see others getting the glory of God's benedictions. This is the spirit that we should all be striving for. We can compete with each other to try to inspire each other to do more. But we should actually be really happy when somebody else is doing more, because we're happy for them. Why are we happy for them? Because the Lord loves them. And if we love the Lord, we'll be happy for those the Lord loves. And I don't want to be poetic about it, but it is the most poetic principle in all of existence. Love for God cannot really exist in the presence of envy. If we're envious of anyone, and therefore, as devotees, rather than trying to serve that envy, to undermine others, we see that this is an impediment in my loving service of pleasing the Lord. And we take shelter. We take shelter of that higher, because these anarthas, these unwanted obstacles, are so beyond us. But Krishna tells in Gita, Daiviheshu gunamayi mama maya turatyaya, that